Freeway, how many fighters do you anticipate being connected to as you build this thing to its maximum capacity?
Well, Rick keeps me in line because I would have been unsigned like 20 fighters already. My first fighter was a guy named Chris Lovejoy, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, going along with, what I was being told, and we worked the guy up to 19-0, and then the first time he got into a real fight, he got knocked out in the first round. So what I've learned is that I got to look for guys that have some talent, and that's where I'm weak at because I really don't know the talent end of it. But guess who I got? I got Rick Glazer. Yeah. So I got the expert. Rick knows this game back and forth. He probably knows boxing better than I know the back of my hand, and I'm looking at it right now. So that's how well Rick knows this boxing game. So I'm going to follow his lead, and until I get to the position, where I can say, "Hey, Rick, I know what I'm doing now," and I don't think that he's ever going to have a problem with that. Rick he's one of those guys. He's been really patient with me, and because sometimes I don't do what he tells me to do, or he advised me to do, and he comes back and he say, "Hey, you should do that," and I'll be like, nope.
So what is it? What is it about? I mean, obviously, I think as a veteran boxing writer, Rick Glazer is someone that's been around the sport for most of his life. Everyone who's in boxing has an opinion about how the sport can be fixed. What is it that you see as you assess the landscape of professional boxing that you say, hey, by my involvement, I can make it better by doing this? What is it that you'd like to bring?
Building the fighters. Not building for fighting in the ring. No, building them as human beings, so that they would be better people. I don't think that, I mean, when I look at a guy like Jake Paul, who's really not really a fighter at all, he's a YouTuber, but what he's done is he's learned how to connect with people. Mm-hmm. He's learned how to become a people's person, and I don't think that fighters have done that. Guys have disconnected themselves with the people. Yes, you may be the baddest guy in the whole world, but you still need people. Even when Muhammad Ali was the baddest guy in the whole world, he would run down the streets and he would have crowds of people running with him. And I think those are some of the things that we're going to bring back to boxing, where our guys, because if I run into a guy and he gets big-headed, I'll back away from him. Because if you're not humble and you're not a person of the people, then what are you doing it for? Are you just doing it for cars and Rolexes and pretty women? No, this platform is much bigger than that. You have an opportunity to be somebody that the world can look up to, somebody that the world can learn from. And I think that this is what the platform should be used for. And I'm hoping that my guys will kind of take my lead on that perspective and allow me to teach them how to become. I mean, when you look at myself, I sold cocaine to people's mothers, brothers, sisters, and fathers and uncles. But people love me. And that's because they forgave me for what I've done. I asked for forgiveness. And now I want to be a person of other people. I want to educate other people about how you get involved with drugs, how you're going to get hooked on drugs. And I share all my knowledge that I have with the people who need it. And I think that as a boxers, we need to do the same thing.
You make a great point because it is such an individual sport. And, as a journalist, I've often felt like this, especially to some of the fighters that I've become close to. It's like all you have, as an individual fighter in an individual sport is your individual story. And you've got to just pound that story repeatedly over and over again to, like you said, connect with the people and connect with the masses, to let them get to understand what you've overcome to arrive at this point. I mean, you've done the same thing today in this conversation, Freeway, and I think that is so invaluable.
Thank you, and because that's what I went to. I went to prison illiterate, but before I left prison, I read over 300 books. So I educated myself there, and I want to use my education to help others. I think that in our country, which is probably the greatest country in the world, even though it's not perfect. I don't think the court system is perfect. But if it's not perfect, then it's up to us as individuals and as human beings to do our part to help correct it and to help it make it the way that it should be.
Lance, may I interject something here? When we were sitting down and he said he wanted to advise fighters, he said to me, I just don't want to advise fighters. I want to mentor them as young men. And I think that that hit home with me, that this Freeway is very sincere, and he's expressed that all along. So it must be very sincere.
Let me ask you this. This may be a tough question, Freeway, but I mean, looking back on the things that happened in your life, and obviously, you know, unbelievable wealth and success came from what, you know, your prior life. Is there guilt over maybe some of the lives that were damaged by this? Is that one of the reasons that you do want to help people, you know, get out of this world?
You know what? They ask me that a lot. I've been asked that a lot of times. But I was doing an article with the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
And when I did the story, and she asked me that question, and I answered it, and the next day when I saw the article, the headliners read, "No regrets, only lessons." So what I take from that is that I don't necessarily regret what happened in my life. It was done.
Yeah.
But I learned some lessons from it. And those lessons must be shared with others so that they don't have to go down the same path that I went down. And I'm not just talking about drugs. I'm talking about so many different ways that we as human beings go down a path of almost no return, you know, because I almost lost my life. You know, I had a life sentence without the possibility of parole. When you looked at my paperwork, my paperwork was stamped life. You know, so that meant that I would be coming out of there on a table. And, you know, I'm just fortunate to be here. You know, society gave me a second chance. And, you know, I want to give some kids not only a second chance, but some of them their first chance, you know, and these boxers can do it. You know, they'll have the platform. They'll be the ones that the people listen to. They'll be the ones that the people follow. And I'm hoping that I can guide them in the direction of leading the people down the right path.
You know, America loves a good comeback story. Boxing obviously is filled with great stories of redemption. What would it mean for you to be in this role and get one of your fighters to a world title and have him hold up the belt, knowing that you know, had a role in that happening?
It would be phenomenal. It would be one of my jailhouse dreams come true. You know, I used to dream when I was in jail.
Is that right?
Yeah, it would be one of my jailhouse dreams come true. But it's coming. You know, I can see myself getting in that position. You know, it didn't take me but about 5 minutes sitting with Rick Glazer to know that he was somebody that could lead me in that direction. Rick
Glazer, do you think that that's going to happen? Do you believe that that is going to happen, that scene that we just discussed?
There's no question in my mind. I think the combination of the two of us, what we both bring to the table, and I think it's just a matter of, you know, who goes first. This one young fighter that we have, of Rashawn Champion.
What a name!
What a name, right? He just knocked out a guy 5-0 in his hometown. He was Rashawn was 1-0. So it was like, you know, he's got heart. He's got gumption. I mean, he's got it all. Separate from Freeway, Team Freeway Boxing, before Team Freeway Boxing was formed, Freeway has a advisory deal with Floyd Schofield Sr. and Jr., who's a up and coming 8-0 with almost, I think, 6 or 7 knockouts, lightweight from Texas. His name is Kid Austin, they call him. So he's off from Austin, Texas, fights out of next door in San Antonio. But he's not included in the roster because he's technically not a Team Freeway fighter, where Freeway advises them under his own personal name. And for legality purposes, we wanted to keep it separate.
Will you guys, what if you guys are approached by someone who maybe is a very well-known bona fide contender, or even maybe a champion who just hasn't reached the pinnacle to his or her satisfaction? Will you embrace that, even though that may not fall under the three, you know, the 3 describers that you had said previously?
Let me answer that question. Of course we would, okay, but that's not what we're out looking for every day. If those deals come to us and fall in our lap, where they feel that they're not getting enough money as a current world champion, or they feel they're getting put in with the wrong guys, or their career's not advancing or whatever, we would be honored and privileged to take on those type of fighters. But that's not our day. Our daily business is looking for talent that's under the surface right now, diamonds in the rough, or just diamonds that haven't been noticed by anybody else. Contenders that are on the verge of breaking out, breaking into the, into the top, like fringe guys are coming up. And of course, the guys that we talked about, where they lost a fight and they need a second chance for their careers. But we're not going to turn down any champions or top guys or big money makers, because that would be foolish. But we're not looking for those. But those fighters will come to us as we go forward and do a great job with what the other fighters we're working with, especially with Rick's public persona and how he is the gentleman that he is and stuff, and sees that we're everything that we say they are. The fighters breed off of each other. And what I mean by that is, if fighters talk well about us, the ones we have, we'll attract more fighters. If they don't talk good about us, then we're not going to attract more fighters. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And you know what? To answer that question too, I tried that from the beginning. I went from Chris Lovejoy. I worked with Stephen Fulton from Philly. I also did a little with J-Rock from Philly.
Great kids.
Austin Trout. So, I tried to work with those guys, but what I found out is when those guys are already in position, they don't really take the advice of somebody who doesn't have the track record to show them.
Yeah, and the last thing too, I mean, I know before this conversation began, me and Rick were talking off air, and Rick made a comment that you cannot be in this business and be nice. But I think what he was trying to say, is that it just helps to have that credibility that you have. And obviously it's street cred, but you've got to feel like you can talk to anyone, whether it's an executive or a kid, just starting in this sport. Is that your ultimate trump card?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, I was out of prison 1 week, and I was sitting in the office of the biggest guys in television and movies right out of prison. So I felt that if I could do that, then I could do anything. So I'm just going to keep working hard. And now, I feel like I have the smartest man in boxing in my corner, which is Mr. Glazer. And I can't be stopped, as long as he keep giving me his brain and let me use his brain. And I'll use my credibility and allow him to use my credibility and my street cred. And then we can't be stopped.
Not many people in this world can say that they made $3 million a day, Freeway. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys, good luck on your pursuit. Keep in touch throughout, and we'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Lance.
You take care, Rick. Bye-bye, guys.